जय जय गोविंद जय हरि गोविंद जय।
ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति The lesson, the state of self-realization, the topic, his impact on world. Yes.
His impact on world. The world is made up of good and evil. Righteous and unrighteous forces have been conflicting with each other from time immemorial. Neither of them has succeeded in destroying the other completely. There can be no good or bad alone, since the world is constituted of pairs of opposite dvandvas. Thus, from the very inception, virtue and vice are the warp and woof that have patterned the world. These opposing forces have been in the past, are in the present, and will continue in the future. Religions symbolize them as God and the devil. The Bible speaks of the conflict between Satan and Christ. The epic Mahabharata recounts the proverbial war between the evil Kauravas and virtuous Pandavas. The Ramayana portrays the battle between the demon Ravana and Lord Rama. John Milton's epic poem, Paradise Lost, describes the war between the demon and the gods. History has shown no god person could exterminate evil and establish goodness alone, nor could devilish person wipe out goodness and establish evil alone. At best, they have succeeded in strengthening their trait and weakening the opposite. Thus, the role of the good and evil would perpetually alternate in the world, whereas yours is to rise above them and reach the divine core of your personality. The dual forces of good and evil that operate in macrocosm do so in microcosm as well. Material craving and sensual indulgence pull you down to lower level of your personality, while your divine aspiration lift you to the higher, edify you. The lower temptations generally outnumber the higher aspirations. The strength of the lower lies in numbers, while the higher is in its quality. The human mission is to use one's higher nature to control and conquer the lower. Let your mind expand and accommodate the interest and welfare of fellow beings. It elevates you. The mind behaves much like water. Water kept in a pot remains in it for days on end. Pour the water on the floor. Let it spread over a large area. It evaporates fast. Water vapor rises upward. It reaches high up in the sky. And when it becomes concentrated, constricted, it forms into clouds. The rainwater falls downwards. The sun draws water up. The earth pulls it down with its gravity. The same phenomena is seen in your mind. When your mind remains selfish, self-centered, restricted itself to individual alone, it lies low, involved, attached, lost in the affairs of the world. The earth pulls you down. The enlightened soul acts like the sun to draw your mind to greater heights. The mind expands to become unselfish, selfless, to soar to the height of perfection, helps you evolve spiritually. It is a law. In truth, the sun does everything in the world, but remains unattached like a witness, Sakshi. It sheds luster, supports life everywhere, provides vegetation, causes the water to flow, the wind to blow. The earth and planet revolves around it. It is the center of everything. Such is the glory and grace of God person. His presence sets everything right. In His divine presence, righteousness prevails over unrighteousness. The world is no longer gripped by worry and anxiety, stress and strain. People turn towards the self within. Such is the impact of a realized soul upon the world.
The impact of the world on him is nothing. We studied last. Now, what is his impact on the world? What happens in his presence? What is it that happens when he is associating with the world? What happens to the world when he is associating? World here refers to the beings that he is associating with. What is the impact? A very subtle reference is given as to what is the impact of the self-realized person on the world. Verse 8, chapter 4. Very famous verse. Paritranaya sadhona vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. This is the impact that the self-realized person has on the world. That's the reference. And he's quoting it directly. He's not referring the verse, but the concept here. What I mean is the concept. What is the nature of the world? The nature of the world is Mishram, mixture. The nature of the world is Mishram, mixture. Mixture of good and bad. You can neither have only bad, nor you can have only good. By law, it is a mixture. What is the impact that he has? In his presence, the balance shifts. In his presence, the proportion shifts. That's the only, that is the impact that he has on the world. In the presence of an enlightened person, the balance shifts. Balance from selfish to unselfish. Even the selfish person in front of him would want to become unselfish. So what is his impact on the world? His impact on the world in one word is transformation. His impact on the world is he can inspire, motivate beings for spiritual evolution, for spiritual transformation. And what we mean by spiritual transformation is the shift from selfish to unselfish. What is the world? Good and bad. A self-realized person, or no person for that matter, howsoever big, howsoever great that person is, can make the world into a very good place only. What Mahatma Gandhi dreamt as Ramarajya. He dreamt of a state like that. What Plato describes as utopia. Plato describes it as utopia. We call here it as Ramarajya. All that means is what? Only good and no bad at all. Vedanta comes and says that possibility doesn't exist at all. For world will always be a mixture of good and bad. Then what impact does this person have on the world? His presence shifts the proportion. The proportion from selfish to unselfish. Also, he is a living example of how do you relate with whatsoever you call as evil, bad. The way he is conducting his life is an example of how do you relate with so-called evil. That is the impact. Generally, what happens? First of all, how would you define evil? Which I don't like is evil, that which I like is good. Very straightforward. Where is the problem? So, what is evil? Evil is pain, injury to another. You cause pain to another. That is evil. Why do we call that as evil? Because it will result in mental agitations. It's called as evil because it will result in mental agitations. So anything that results in mental agitations is evil. By nature, the mind rushes towards the world. And when it is rushing towards the world, it does some actions, it entertains some emotions, it does some actions which will necessarily produce agitations. And what is this wise person here? He is also relating into the same world that we are relating. He is also relating to the same person that we are relating. He is also interacting with the same world that we are interacting. But there is a fundamental difference. There is a fundamental difference. What is the difference? He has the capacity to lift the evil up. How does he lift them up? By motivating, by inspiration. He doesn't come and lift them up means he doesn't do, he doesn't come do some miracle and the evil turns good. Not in that sense. He is such a towering personality. He is able to motivate. He is able to inspire. This is the impact of the world. This is the impact that the self-realized person has on the world. He is the one who can inspire. He is the one who can bring about transformation, and he is the one who can inspire. Everybody in life wants to be a role model to somebody, no? We all want to inspire somebody. We all want to make others say this. We all want that. Everybody wants that. At least the parents say, at least in my house, I should be the role model to my children. And the children, after growing up, turns back and say, I wish I was born in a different family. So I wish I was born in a different family. The parents are utterly devastated, not knowing not knowing where things went wrong. Impact is to inspire. The positive impact that you can do to the world is you will be able to inspire. You will be able to motivate. Inspire, motivate towards what? Not towards indulgences, not towards sensuality. That anyway you do by yourself. You don't need any motivation to do that. Nobody needs motivation. Nobody needs training to be sensual, to be indulgent. But lot of motivation, inspiration is needed to be a disciplined person, to lead a life of discipline. And this person here is able to do that. Such is his impact on the world. How he does it? And how he does it? By him living that life. How he does it? Not by sermons, not by giving discourses, not by trying to convince the other. It's not all that. He lives life in a manner that is inspiring. And what is the manner with which he lives life? The life of a life of service and sacrifice. At your level, if you are able to be unselfish and sacrificial to that extent, you also will be motivating, inspiring somebody to that extent. Just as when a person is highly ignorant, that person thinks security lies in wealth. So he goes on acquiring wealth. Much later to realize that security and wealth has no correlation. For a person who doesn't have wealth is insecure. A person who has wealth is also insecure. What only difference is what will make him insecure is different from what will make this person insecure, but insecurity as such doesn't leave. Insecurity as such doesn't leave. Similarly, a person thinks you can motivate, you can inspire when you are able to. That's why they try to attract the other. Here he says the only way that you can do is by living a life of service and sacrifice, which this person does. The only way you could do this is by this, and this person here is doing that life. He is living that life. Second impact is how he relates to evil. That's very important. How he relates to evil. The same world that we have 2,000 complaints, 20,000 complaints, 2 million complaints, he doesn't have any complaint. The same situation that we are dealing is the same situation that he is also dealing. He's not relating in a different world. No, he's also relating to the same world that we are relating to. There's no difference. And yet, how does he relate to evil? It's a very beautiful lesson. How he relates to what is evil. Weaken the evil. By weakening the evil, weaken the evil. Weaken the opponent. And how do you weaken it? How do you weaken the evil? By showing them that there is something different from what they are doing. By living a life that is so different from what they are living. Another important aspect of his impact on the world, the lesson that we can draw is his relationship to the evil. It doesn't agitate him. It doesn't disturb him. And throughout the Shastras, we keep talking about these two forces, the good and the bad. Ramayana talks about good and bad. Mahabharata talks about good and bad. John Milton talks about paradise lost, paradise regained, the demons and the gods. Bible speaks of conflict. The opposing forces. If there is a force that is pulling you down and there is a force that is lifting you up. There are two forces. There are two forces. One is the law of gravity. Everything is pulled down. But then that is not the only force. No, there is another force also, which is opposite of that. That you can lift yourself up also. There are two forces to life. These two forces is what is symbolically called as good and evil. First is to recognize that there are these two forces. One is a force that pulls you down. It's called gravity. One force is constantly pulling you down. And then there is another force that tells you you can lift yourself up also. There is another force that tells you that you can lift yourself up. When millions and billions and everybody is pulled down, a few masters is able to balance it. A few masters are able to come and tilt the balance. Such is their impact. They can counteract the forces of the millions and the billions and lift. That is their impact on the world. That is their impact. One person is enough. Remember these two forces of life. Not to be taken literally, this good and evil, it ought to be taken symbolically. Good is that which is elevating you. Good is that which is ennobling. Evil is that which causes anger, frustration, jealousy, greed, any emotion you give. Any emotion that is resulting in mental agitations is evil. Any emotion. Vitaraga bhaya krodha stitadir muniruchyate. This is the definition he gives in the Siddha Prajna portion. Vitaraga bhaya krodha stitadihi munihi uchyate. Uchyate means he said. They say this person is a muni, a sage, who is free from Vitaraga bhaya krodha. He says raga bhaya krodha. So what is evil? Being a victim of raga, krodha, bhaya is all evil. What is good? That which lifts the personality up. Please understand, good is not that which makes you happy. Good is that which lifts you up. Understand the difference. Good is that which makes you happy. No? There are so many things that makes you happy. No, murdering also gives you happiness. Yeah. Drinking also gives happiness. Drugs also gives happiness. So, what is good? Good is that which lifts you up. You actually feel you are 2 feet above the ground. Huh? Don't see literally and all. They will also be walking on the earth only. Okay. Then you see that fellow whether he is 2 feet above the ground or not. He feels that the gravity doesn't pull him down. He's floating. The gravity doesn't pull him down. In the case of a lay person, very difficult is to be this free person. Very difficult to have this. Very difficult to have this, experience this freedom. In that sense, this is the impact he has on the world. So what is his impact? Protecting the good. Paritranaya sadhona vinashaya cha dushkrita dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Chapter 4. Beautiful two verses, 7 and 8. Chapter 4, verses 7 and 8, he gives this impact. What is the impact this person has on the world? The lower temptations generally outnumber the higher. This is the law. The lower generally outnumber the higher. We have seen this any number of times. I have said this based on this statement. The strength of the lower, second paragraph, last sentence, by heart that. The strength of the lower lies in numbers, while that of the higher is in its quality. When you are at a lower level, the strength is derived through numbers. More the numbers, more the security. When you go higher and higher, it is not anymore the numbers, it is the quality. Quality of what? The quality of unselfishness, the quality of selflessness. That is the higher. When we say higher in quality, what is higher in quality means? The quality of unselfishness and the quality of selflessness. How does one do that? When the mind expands to become unselfish, selfless, then you soar to the height of perfection. It is a law. It is a law. The mind has to expand. Expansion of the mind means the ability to accommodate. That's what expansion of the mind means. Mind that is not expanded means cannot accommodate. The mind that is expanded means it has the capacity to, it has the ability, it has the capacity to accommodate. Accommodate who? Accommodate what? When you are unselfish, your ability to accommodate becomes more because your strength is more, your power is more, your ability to accommodate is more. When you are selfish and self-centered, you feel weak all the time. This is the law. If a person is feeling weak, means that person has become selfish. It's as simple as that. A unselfish person always have this courage. He can, the unselfish person has the strength. And what is the inner strength? To accommodate the evil and transfer them and transform them. The ability to accommodate the evil and transform. Samadana, Bheda, Danda. Transformation happens by any one of these. 4 methods. Sama, Dhana, Bheda, Danda. Meaning, you try to reason, you try to show emotion, you try to show reason, you try to show emotion, you keep aside for a while so that the distance can make the other person to think. Bheda, if all that doesn't work, finally, Danda, so many ways. In and through all that, how is he able to? What is the impact that he is creating on the other? The impact that he is creating is one of to raise the evil. In the poem Village Preacher, he says, to raise the wretched, he says. To raise the wretched. Wretched means one who is in distress. In the poem Village Preacher, he talks about the village preacher. And who is he? He is so concerned about raising the wretched. Wretched means one who is disturbed, one who is agitated. And the vast majority of the world is agitated, disturbed, and he has the ability, he has the capacity to do that. When we say he has the ability, capacity means provided if people make use of it. His presence by itself will not do all that. He doesn't. It's not that he will come with like the Harry Potter. He will come with one magic wand and he will do that. His presence itself can be such an impact if people know how to make proper. If people know how to make right use. Even the worst agitated person in the presence of a Mahatma feels a composure, feels something is all right. Why? Because in his presence, all the worries and anxieties look so insignificant. All the worries and anxieties look so insignificant in his presence. As soon as he leaves, the whole thing comes back. That's a different story altogether. Just as in this classroom, we are all elevated for a while, no? In the presence of the higher literature, in the presence of the higher Shastra, we are all elevated for a while. And then what happens? The whole thing comes. That is the impact. That's how you can understand. During the course time, he will be there, Swamiji will be there for 3 weeks. Swamiji will not be there for 6 weeks at times. I'm talking about in the early 90s, it used to be like that. Sometimes he will not be there for 6, 7 weeks at a stretch. So, third week, fourth week, manage. And then, here and there problem will start, everything, and they'll be waiting for him to come with a long list of what all to, with a long list. He'll just come and he'll ask, Inada, what happened? Oh, nothing happened. Everything looks so, everything just fizzles out. 3 weeks later, it will come back again. That's a different story. What is the impact? This is the impact. In the presence of him, in the presence of such a great person, all your worries and anxieties, your big, all your concerns, and I don't know what all it is, looks so insignificant. You see the real status of your worries and anxieties temporarily in front of him. That is his impact. Minus him, the mind exaggerates it so much. If only the human being can cut the exaggeration and see the reality, we won't have this problem, sir. We won't have these problems. Very difficult is to clip the exaggeration. You can very clearly see when other is exaggerating, but you can never know when you are exaggerating. I don't know whether you have observed it. When someone else is exaggerating, you know it. You can know it very clearly. You will say, why are you making what is it? Mountain out of a mola? Correct? Is it correct? அப்ப மேட்டர் அது இதை போய் இல்லையா அப்படி சொன்னாதான் நல்லா இருக்கு இல்லையா for those who don't know the supper matter it's okay இல்லையா supper matter அது இதை போய் you can say it in relation to someone else For your own self, you cannot say that when it comes to your own self. What is his impact? His presence makes you to see it. That is his impact. His presence helps you to clip the exaggerations and see it as it is. What is his impact on the world? His impact on the world is to give knowledge. And what knowledge means? What is the definition of knowledge? Knowledge is that which reveals it as it is. Knowledge, the definition of knowledge is that which reveals it as it is. Mind is that which always tends to exaggerate. It goes on exaggerating. The result of the exaggeration is agitations, worries, and anxiety, etc., etc., etc. Why do we call it as exaggeration? Because the law, the world is a mixture of good and evil. It's a law that is already established. Since that is already established, all that you need to do is not to exaggerate it. That's what you can do. You cannot clip the evil. You cannot eradicate the evil, the devilish. You cannot, you being a divine person, why can't you wipe out all that? You can't wipe out all. All that you can do is what you can he rightly understands, number one. The extraordinary thing that he does is he makes us understand also. Like literally giving eyes to the blind person. It's like that. The person is so completely blind and he slowly gives that vision. What is the vision? You can clip the exaggeration. That is the vision. The exaggeration can be clipped. He is not saying evil is not there. Please understand the difference. He is not saying evil isn't there at all. He says it is not in the way that it can affect you. In every human being, there are some qualities. And the quality in another person need not affect you at all. If it is affecting you means there is something wrong with. If you are affected, it means there is something wrong with you, not with the other person. Vedanta comes and says, it is not with the other person, it is with you. So convincing it is with the other person, no? What is the impact of this great man on world? He can convince you that it is in you. You change yourself, everything changes. That is the impact. And one of the, it is, I don't know how he is able to do that. How these great men are able to convince. It's not just being blind. It is being stubborn about that also. That stubborn ignorance, these people are able to change the proportions. That is the impact. Are able to follow? Ignorance has a stubbornness to it. And to reason with the stubborn person and make them see sense, I tell you, it's not easy. Eh? You will be convinced at the end of the session, you will be convinced. Whether the other is convinced or not, you will get convinced and say, oh, correct, maybe you are right. That person is correct. Wrong. What is the impact they can make? The impact they can make is they can make the ignorant see. In the Gita Dhyana Sloka, very beautifully it is put. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim. In the Dhyana Slokas, It's an invocatory prayer to Bhagavad Gita. It's called Dhyana Slokas. In one of the Dhyana Sloka, he says, Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim. It makes the mute speak. Lame scale mountain. Such is the impact. Such is the impact. How difficult it is to convince, to educate a fool. That is the impact. Educating the ignorant and educating the fool. Both are different. Huh? Educating the ignorant and educating a fool. Here, their impact is the world has lot of foolish people, and they are able to have an impact on. That is the impact. If you understand it in this manner, then you will know what impact they have on world. Generally, people misunderstand that they give lot of solace, they give lot of comfort. In his presence, everything will be okay for a while, and then what happens? Back to square one. Huh? It's not just the solace. It's not just the solace. It's not just the comfort. It is the right vision. And they are able to give the right vision because they are able to give the right vision because of what? That state of self-realization is that. State of self-realization. God, person, God is all one and the same. Huh? God, person, God, all are one and they are not any different. The Upanishad example which Shankaracharya quotes in the Atma Bodha and calls us Rajavatsada, like a king. His impact is like what impact the king has. In his presence, everything is in order. Everything becomes orderly in his presence. That is the impact they have on the world. The one force that pulls you down is your own lower tendencies. The higher tendency in you needs something to hold on to lift itself up. These great men provide that support. There are two forces. One is the forces that pulls you down, the senses and the indulgences, etc., that pulls you down. And then there is the higher force in you that needs some support. That needs some strength, something to lift itself up. These great men provide that strength. And how do they provide that? By knowledge and understanding. How do they provide that? By knowledge and by providing knowledge and understanding. The way they live life itself is knowledge and understanding, plus the actual teaching also. The way they conduct themselves in life itself is knowledge and teaching, plus actually the teaching too. Such is the impact of the self-realized person on the world. He can shift the balance. Shift the balance in an individual, shift the balance in a society. That's what it means. He can shift the balance in an individual, he can shift the balance in a society. Doesn't mean maybe one, maybe 100, maybe thousands, maybe millions. The numbers don't actually matter here. The numbers don't actually matter here. It is the ability to shift the balance in, even if you can do it in 1%, you have done extraordinary work in your lifetime. Even if you can shift the balance in 1%, what? Convince the person to be unselfish. Are you okay till now? The problem is, people say, I'm already unselfish, sir. Other doesn't understand what to do. This is where the problem comes. The person says, correct, sir, but I'm already unselfish. No. My unselfishness is not recognized by the other. Now teach me how to make the other recognize my unselfishness. Or I am unselfish already. He says, if you are unselfish already, what would have happened? Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha, as he said in the Bhagavad Gita, all that would have gone. Remember the traits that we saw in the beginning of this chapter? The positive traits. Remember those traits? All those traits would have come. All those positive traits would have come if unselfishness is predominant. And how he educates you to become unselfish. How he educates you to become unselfish. Increase the circle of identification. Remember the concentric circles diagram? I'm sure every one of you knows those diagrams, the concentric circles. By increasing the circle of identification. Identification means the capacity, the joy, the strength, capacity, the joy, the strength of sacrifice as the identification. Identification means the capacity to, you have the strength, you have the capacity, you have the joy, the bliss of, that is what is meant by capacity. That's what is meant by increasing the circle of identification. Now the circle is where? Now the circle is only upon oneself. For even 2% is becoming difficult nowadays, no? Even the second person in the room is difficult nowadays. Not to talk about the house, not to talk about reality. Imagine human being being uncomfortable only with another human being and very comfortable with cockroaches, lizards, mosquitoes. Yeah. I'm very happy and comfortable with mosquitoes, very happy and comfortable with cockroach, very happy and comfortable with the lizard. All that I'm happy and comfortable. But manshal mattu mudiyadu, sir. Too much to your selfishness manifests in your circle only. That's why the circle of identification is the practical method of increasing the unselfishness. And what is identification? Again, I'm repeating. What does identification means? Identification is the strength, the capacity to sacrifice and blissful about it and so joyous about it. So joyous, so happy, so blissful that you are able to do it. Comes because of the inner strength. You can be joyous only when you have that. You can be joyous in service and sacrifice only when you have developed that inner strength. This person here, where does he come in? Till you develop your inner strength, that person acts as a support. Whenever you feel down, this person comes and lifts you up. Are you able to see the connect now? You have to do it. But then what is this person's role? What is his impact? Whenever you are down, he comes and the presence lifts you up. And to that, we are extremely grateful. To that help that he does, we are extremely thankful. We are extremely grateful. This is the impact of the world on him. With this, we conclude the the lesson, the state of realization. We conclude that. And we will be moving into part C. We'll be moving into part C of the book, section 3. Section 2 is over. Now we'll be moving into section 3 of Vedanta Treatise. The essence of Vedanta. Set of extraordinary lessons where we will be talking about the law of karma, where we'll be talking about the knowledge, perception, theory of perception. Theory of perception means theory of knowledge, and then we'll be seeing and then we'll be talking about the illusions, and then we will talk about the state of reality, Brahman. A very interesting section that we will be getting into, the essence of Vedanta. We'll be starting the essence next week. I'm just giving a preamble now. His impact on the world is over. So that portion, that lesson is over. Now we are getting into enough of praising somebody as great, great, great. No, after a while you get so bored of listening to that. I like to hear somebody praising me. How long can I praise? So enough, that part is over. Now we are getting back into business. Section 3, the essence of Vedanta. The first lesson in section 3 is the use and abuse of religion. Essentials and non-essentials of religion. The use and abuse of religion. And then we move on to a beautiful topic, the law of causation. That's where law of karma comes, law of destiny comes, the theory of reincarnation comes. You get such a clarity about what life is all about in this chapter, the law of causation. And then it goes on to another beautiful topic, theory of perception. Perception means knowledge. Theory of knowledge. When we go there, we will see all that. What is all that? And this is what he calls as the essence of Vedanta. And then comes the illusions, Maya. There we'll be discussing the real, the unreal, the temporary, the two types of illusions that place, the intrinsic, the extrinsic, and all that. Above the illusions lie the supreme reality, the qualities and attributes of Brahman. And wherever the attributes and qualities of Brahman comes, that is so inspiring. Supreme reality. And then the last lesson concludes by saying, you are that. The aphorism, Tattvamasi, it concludes with that. That thou art. This is the essence of Vedanta. To put it simply, what is the essence of Vedanta? How does an individual gain knowing? How does an individual gain knowledge of anything? That is perception. What is the law that governs life? There is only one principle that governs life, the law of causation. There is this one law that governs life, and that law is called the law of causation. Three topics we will be discussing there. The law of karma, the law of destiny, where we will be talking about the law of destiny, the law of karma, the two forces, prarabdha and the purushartha, and then the theory of reincarnation. When we go there, we will discuss that. You can call it as law of reincarnation itself. In the chapter law of causation comes the theory of reincarnation. For all practical purposes, you can call it as law of reincarnation also. Then comes the 18th lesson, theory of perception. What is this world like? That is the question there. You see a world. Is that the world, or it is how it is appearing to you? All these questions is what is actually makes you philosophical and more penetrative and helps you to evolve. You see a world. When you see the world, is the world as you see it, or is that how it is? You may be seeing it, but is that how it is? Why are we bothered about all this, sir? Who is bothered about all this? Why are we discussing even these things? If you don't understand these things, part B, part A, and all that talks about becoming ethical, becoming moral, becoming unselfish, you will never have the conviction of why it has to be done. The conviction of the spiritual path and all that, whatever we have studied till now, comes from this few lessons. That's why it is called as the essence of Vedanta, the theory of perception. In the theory of perception, he will be talking about the two sets, the idealism, the realism, and then how Vedanta reconciles. When we go there, we will see the mathematical equation law. And honestly, I tell you, part A, part B may take much longer time. I don't think part C will take that much time. You can just read through that, I think, mostly. Because everybody will understand it straight away. Doubt ever. We will not have any doubt, no questions will. Bouncer, no, everything goes above the head. So much, no. You can just, and then comes illusions. Maya. We keep hearing this word. Vedanta says the world is Maya. Vedanta says the world is Maya. What is Maya? Is it imaginary or temporary? That discussion. What is Maya? Is it imaginary or is it temporary? What will be your answer? Is it imaginary or temporary? It's temporary. You can't say imaginary. Because if you say imaginary, knock your head against the nearest table. Yeah, that's what he says. If you say it is imaginary, knock your head against the nearest table, you will know. Or plant the person you hate in front of you, then you will know whether it is, yeah. And then you will know whether it is, so what is it? Is it imaginary or is it temporary? That is a discussion. The illusions, the Maya. Then comes the reality. Kutastha. We go there, and then comes the supreme reality. And that reality is not something which is different and distinct from you. That reality you you are, where we will be elaborating the aphorism Tattvamasi. When you go there, we will do that. We can do a lot of study on this. We can do a lot of analysis. And I can also show off what all. Yeah. That the word. Part C, the essence of Vedanta. We'll continue with part C, the essence of Vedanta, the lesson, use and abuse of religion in the next session. Thanks, Anshu, for the offer. She asked, can I study? I said, very good, please. And you read very well also. For a change, we had a nice reading. Huh? For a change, I don't know about others, but I was very relieved. For a change, some nice reading. We don't know where the comma is, we don't know where the full stop is. After a while, it is like, okay, our mudiketonu, we at least I switch off. Yeah. Don't tell Shankar, he's not here. That's why I'm saying all this. I'm gossiping about Shankar now. Prasad, அவர்கிட்ட சொல்லாதீங்க அதெல்லாம். Recording edit பண்ணிட சொல்லிடுறேன் இல்லையா? Because he'll see the recording tomorrow. Sir, I saw the recording, he will say. In the news, since he's not here, I'm gossiping about him. Very good, Anshu. Excellent. So, we continue with the essence of Vedanta next session. Okay.